Well, the Kremlin issued a chilling warning of retaliatory actions today after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged more support for Ukraine. President Zelensky made a short visit to the UK as he attempts to secure more military support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. After a 2-hour meeting in Chequers, Rishi Sunak announced he'll send hundreds of long-range missiles and armed drones. But Zelensky wants fighter jets, and the UK won't, at the moment, commit to that.
Today we spoke about the jets, very important topic for us, because we can't control the sky. We want to create this jets coalition.
We are going to be a key part of the coalition of countries that provides that support to Vladimir and Ukraine. Now, it is not a straightforward thing, as Vladimir and I have been discussing, to build up that fighter combat aircraft capability. It's not just the provision of planes, it's also the training of pilots and all the logistics that go alongside that.
Well, the UK has gone further than any other European country in providing weapons, but is it enough to help Ukraine defeat Putin once and for all? In a moment, I will get an expert view from the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt. But first, I'm joined by the Mail on Sunday columnist Peter Hitchens. Peter, welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Pleasure to be here.
So, look, what is your view of the Ukraine war? How do you think this now ends? What should the UK be doing?
Well, I think that all civilised and sensible people should be making every conceivable effort to bring it to an end. Huge numbers of happy, innocent persons have been turned into corpses and refugees. Cities have been blasted into pieces, houses turned to ruins, an economy smashed, and the whole of Ukraine now faces continuing destruction. I do not see what interest it serves the world to continue with this. It would be absolutely in the interest of the Ukrainian people for there to be peace talks which would bring this awfulness to an end.
Yeah, but hang on. But how would the peace talks go? I mean, are you suggesting that Ukraine... Well, hang on. Are you suggesting Ukraine should give up territory that has been illegally seized by Russia?
No, if I was saying that, I would say that.
I'm asking you the question.
I know, and I'm saying I'm not saying that. So there you are. That's that one solved.
Good.
Any other questions?
I've got a lot of questions. Yeah. So I mean, what do you think these peace talks would lead to? Because Vladimir Putin wants to keep control of the territory he's taken, and probably some more. Ukraine is absolutely adamant they shouldn't be ceding any territory. They even want Crimea back for reasons which are perfectly obvious if you spend time with Ukrainians. So my question for you is, you think you can end with peace talks? How does that end if the Ukrainians won't give up any territory?
I won't be there at the peace talks. The people who will be involved would be the governments of the two combatant countries, and they will decide. But it seems to me, I must ask you, given the tone of your question, do you like war? Have you seen war? Do you know what a human body looks like after a bullet has passed through it?
Well, I would say I would answer that. I would answer that, Peter, by saying, as I think you know, because actually your brother Christopher wrote for me at the time, and he opposed my position on this. I opposed vociferously, as editor of the Mirror, the war in Iraq. Which was, sadly, I was unsuccessful in trying to get that stopped. However, my brother was a British Army colonel and served for 37 years in the army, and he served in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. So, yeah, I got an indirect feedback on what a war is like. And no, nobody likes war. You'll never meet a soldier who says they like war. However, as in 1939, when the world, and I say the world, not just Ukraine, when the world is confronted with an evil dictator who thinks he can just march into neighbouring countries and destroy them and kill thousands, if tens of thousands of people, and then take their land, the world has a duty, in my opinion, as it did in 1939, to stand up to that person. And that person right now is Vladimir Putin. So that would be my position.
But the world has stood up to him. His offensive has been halted. His intentions, as far as we know what they were, have not been achieved, and they're not likely to be achieved. So now we have a position where the two sides are at something like a stalemate. We don't know. I don't make any pretense, unlike everybody else in the trade of journalism, to be a military expert. I don't know what the shape of the Ukrainian offensive, which we're told about so often, will be, or whether it will succeed. But even so, it seems to me that the time has come for us to make an effort to bring an end to war.
Yeah, but I think the way you bring an end to it, surely, it seems to me we've been very successful, Europe and America, in arming the Ukrainians to resist having their country taken by Putin, and they've been incredibly successful in doing that. And there's now a real belief amongst Ukrainians and President Zelensky that if they get enough of the military hardware that they need, they can launch a counteroffensive and actually drive Russia and the Russian forces out of the territory that's been seized. I don't think they've got any intention of waging any kind of peace anytime soon, because as far as they're concerned, they've had a quarter of their country taken.
Well, and you're right. There is no pressure on them from the great powers to make peace. There is no general pressure on them. There's no pressure from Western public opinion on them to make peace. So you may well be right. It's astonishing to remember that Volodymyr Zelensky was actually elected as president of Ukraine on a peace ticket. That he actually stood before his people and said, there is a grave war going on in my country, which, as you probably know, started in 2014, not 2022. It's time it was over, and we must take steps to do so.
But that was before Vladimir Putin invaded.
I know it was, but lots of things were before. But I think it's important for people to understand this episode has background and many, many elements in it which are not much discussed in the generally rather, how shall I say, cursory coverage, which the causes and nature of the war is given in this country. But Zelensky was a peace candidate. He was frustrated in that by elements in his own country who preferred the
but as you know, the situation dramatically changed February last year when Putin invaded Ukraine, and you've got to say that. I find it strange that somebody as smart and perceptive as you, Peter, would look at the situation and think the Ukrainians have any desire to wage any form of peace settlement which may involve them ceding territory. Why should they? We wouldn't, would we? We didn't in 1940s. We fought with every bit of our strength to defy the Nazis.
If you don't want me to be on your programme, all you need to do is not invite me. If you invite me, you should at least during the courtesy of listening to what I say. I've never at any stage suggested, you're the one who suggested, that anybody should cede any land. I would have thought the position the Ukrainians find themselves in now is very strong if they go into negotiations.
Well, you think the Russians would simply give back all the land they've taken?
I don't know what would take place in negotiations. It's plain.
Come off it, Peter. You don't think for a moment Vladimir Putin would give up that territory? Of course he wouldn't. You know that.
Do you want me to answer your questions or not?
I want you to explain why you think this could possibly get resolved unless Ukraine just cede their territory. Vladimir Putin's not going to give any of the land back. He's just spent the last year and a half bombing them into submission to try and take it. Why would he give it back?
How do you know? What is this war about?
This war is about Russia under a dictator trying to take back territory that Vladimir Putin believes should never have been given away in the first place. That's what it's about.
That's your version of it. And again, I think that
I don't think he's made any secret of it.
Well, I'm sorry. It's a very long and complicated story, and one which you, certainly of all the people in broadcasting, before whom I might attempt to explain and argue this, are not the person I choose, because you'd interrupt me before I got 1/10 of what I was going to say out, and you talk over me, which is what you do. The last time we met each other on television, you shut me down and silenced me because I was right about COVID.
Why don't you stop whining and just answer the question?
Now here you are again. Do you want me to
stop whining and answer the question?
Do you want me to say what I was to say, or do you not? Because I've got many other things I'm happy to do.
You're filling all the time that I'm giving you by whining about not getting airtime. Say what you want to say.
Thank you, and stop talking over me. There has never been any suggestion from me since this programme began that Ukraine should give up territory. That came from you. I said there should be negotiations.
Negotiations to do what?
There you go again. The negotiations are...
It's called an interview, Peter. I'm allowed to ask you supplementaries.
The viewers can decide for themselves whether you're giving me a fair shake or not.
All right. Look, we're going around the houses here, but I appreciate you joining the programme. Thank you very much.